Allison didn't believe in fairy tales until the night she saw 7 vampires kneeling at her mother's grave, the scent of blood in the air and a cold, immortal voice claiming her name. 5 years of silence, 5 years of unanswered questions hanging over her life like storm clouds that never broke. Allison's sneakers were soaked through by the time she reached Pinewood Memorial Cemetery, her fingers numb with October cold. She didn't care. The dead didn't mind the chill. 8 years since the illness that took her mother. 8 years since the doctors called it sudden organ failure. Charlotte Ingram, 42. A seamstress who worked from their cramped apartment and kept to herself, and never once mentioned Allison's father. 16 then, 24 now, still broke and still alone. At least that's what the death certificate said. Allison climbed the hill toward the isolated grave, hood pulled tight against the wind. She came every November 3rd, but never this late. Twilight was fading fast, pulling shadows long across the headstones and the empty access roads. She should have brought fresh flowers. Then she saw them. 7 figures in black surrounded her mother's grave like sentinels. Behind them, 3 black SUVs idled with engines humming, headlights cutting through the dusk like prison searchlights. At the center, one man knelt in the wet grass, his pale hand resting against the simple granite stone that read, Charlotte Ingram, 1975-2016. Her heart slammed against her ribs. If you're watching this right now and you still haven't subscribed, ask yourself why. Because if Allison had ignored the signs the way some viewers ignore the subscribe button, she would already be dead. Don't hesitate like she did. Subscribe before something in the dark notices you haven't. She ducked behind a large monument, pressing her back against cold stone, breath coming too fast. This wasn't random mourners. This was ritual. The kneeling man rose slowly, the dying light catching silver blonde hair that looked wrong against his unnaturally young face. Tall, well over 6 feet, lean and dangerous in a black suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Even from 30 yards, she could see the predatory stillness in his posture, like he existed outside normal time. He placed something on the gravestone, a silver vial, sealed with black wax, then a rolled scroll, tied with crimson ribbon that looked centuries old. He spoke, low, reverent, almost tender, but the wind and idling engines swallowed his words. Latin maybe, or something older. A vow, or a condemnation. When he finished, he touched 2 fingers to his lips, then pressed them to the top of the headstone. The gesture so possessive it made her chest ache. All 7 figures bowed their heads in unison. 30 seconds, maybe less. Then, without a word, they dispersed. Engines purred to life. The convoy rolled forward, red taillights bleeding into the growing darkness until nothing remained but silence. Allison waited. 5 minutes. 10. Her legs trembled from cold and adrenaline, but she stayed hidden until she was certain they were gone. Then she ran. Her sneakers slipped on wet grass as she stumbled to the grave, chest heaving. The silver vial lay perfectly centered, its contents dark as garnets. Beside it, the scroll, parchment that felt like skin beneath her fingers. Charlotte Ingram written in calligraphy that belonged in a museum. Her hands shook as she broke the wax seal, heavy paper that crackled as she unrolled it. Inside, elegant script in ink the color of dried blood. The blood contract is due. 18 years of grace have ended. She belongs to the Lockmoor Line. E.L. Beneath the words, a symbol she didn't recognize, a crown pierced by 7 thorns. You shouldn't be here, Allison. If a stranger appeared behind you that quietly, would you survive? Probably not. But subscribing to this channel might be the only smart decision you make tonight. And for those refusing to subscribe, please walk calmly to the comments and explain why you love tempting fate. She spun, nearly dropping everything. He stood less than 10 feet away. The man from the grave. She hadn't heard him approach. No footsteps, no breath, no warning at all. Taller up close, ageless with eyes that caught the last rays of sunlight like a predator's. Not quite gray, not quite gold. Something between that looked ancient and hungry in the shadows. His skin was marble pale, features sharp and aristocratic, and when he tilted his head slightly, she saw the barest hint of something too white, too pointed behind his lips. Everyone who watched vampire movies knew what they looked like on screen. She'd never believed they walked in suburban Pennsylvania. "Who the hell are you?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Edric Lockmoor." He stepped closer. Slow, deliberate, hands loose at his sides like violence was merely one option among many. "And I've waited a very long time to meet Charlotte's daughter." "With what? Some cryptic contract?" She held up the scroll, anger cutting through terror. "You think this gothic bullshit means anything?" "Not a contract." His voice was quiet, absolute, like a judge reading a verdict. "A debt your mother left unpaid." "My mother was a seamstress. She died of organ failure. She didn't know people like—" She gestured at him, at the impossible stillness of him. "Whatever you are." "She was my fated mate." Edric's jaw tightened, and the temperature around them seemed to drop. "She fled from our bond 18 years ago, terrified of the transformation. She hid you in the human world and paid for that choice with her life. The covenant she broke demanded blood. Hers or yours?" The world tilted. "You're insane." "I wish I were." He moved closer still, and she could see the inhuman beauty of him now, the kind that didn't belong to anything that drew breath. "Your mother made a bargain to give you 18 years of normal human life. That grace period ended 6 days ago, on your 24th birthday." Ice flooded her veins. "How do you know when—" "I know everything about you, Allison Ingram." His eyes locked onto hers, and she felt the weight of centuries behind that gaze. "Your studio apartment in Scranton, your shift schedule at the coffee shop, the way you visit this grave every year hoping for answers your mother never gave you, the student loans you can't pay, the way you double lock your door at night because you've always felt like something was watching." Her throat closed. Edric reached into his jacket. She flinched, but he only pulled out a black business card, embossed with silver lettering and the same 7-thorned crown. "Lockmoor Estate. By appointment. Only a phone number. Nothing else." "When you're ready to know what your mother truly was," he said softly, his voice like smoke curling through her defenses, "and what you're becoming, call me." "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't." He turned toward the waiting SUVs, their engines still running, exhaust curling in the cold air. Before getting in, he looked back, and the hunger in his gaze made her skin flush despite the cold. "But you will. Because those marks appearing on your wrists 3 nights ago aren't a rash or an allergic reaction. They're your mother's magic waking up. And when the transformation starts, you'll have 2 choices. Come to me, or let the rival covens who murdered Charlotte find you first." Her blood turned to ice. She glanced down. The faint symbols she'd dismissed as stress hives now seemed to pulse with their own dark light beneath her sleeves. The door closed with a soft thunk. The engine revved, and the convoy pulled away. 3 black SUVs disappearing down the cemetery road like they'd never been there at all. Allison stood there, cold wind cutting through her jacket, staring at the card in her trembling hand. E.L. Edric Lockmoor, the vampire king who knelt at her mother's grave like a man mourning the only thing he'd ever loved, and now he claimed Allison belonged to him. Allison didn't sleep that night. She sat on her apartment floor with her back against the radiator, the black business card on the carpet in front of her, like evidence at a crime scene. The silver vial sat beside it, unopened. The scroll lay flat, its words burned into her memory. "The blood contract is due." Outside, Scranton was quiet. Third floor, corner unit, cheap locks that barely worked. She'd triple-checked them twice already. Not that locks would stop whatever Edric Lockmoor was. Her phone buzzed. 3:47 a.m. A text from Maya, her coworker. "You okay? You left your apron at the shop." She didn't answer. How could she explain that she'd spent the last 6 hours researching vampires on Reddit and occult forums, finding nothing but folklore and fiction? That the marks on her wrists had spread an inch up her forearms, dark symbols that looked like they'd been tattooed. Beneath her skin, that a man claiming to be a vampire king said her dead mother was his mate? The heating pipes clanked. Allison flinched, heart racing. She grabbed her laptop, pulled up the scan she'd made of the scroll, the crown symbol with 7 thorns. She reverse image searched it. Nothing. Searched variations of Lockmoor and blood contract. Nothing useful. Just fantasy novels and role-playing games. Her mother's face stared back at her from the photo on her desk. Charlotte Ingram at 35, smiling in their old kitchen, flour on her hands from baking. Ordinary. Human. A woman who sewed wedding dresses for extra money and died too young from an illness no doctor could explain. She was my fated mate. Allison's throat tightened. If that was true, why had her mother never mentioned it? Why spend 18 years pretending they were normal, poor, barely scraping by, when apparently she'd been running from an immortal king? The marks on her wrists pulsed. She pressed her palms against them, willing them to stop, to disappear, to be anything other than what Edric claimed they were. They burned hotter. Damn it. She grabbed her phone, pulled up the business card photo she'd taken. The number stared back at her. She could call, demand answers, scream at him that he was delusional and she was calling the police. Except what would she say? "Officer, a vampire left me a scroll and some blood at my mother's grave." Her finger hovered over the screen. A knock at the door made her drop the phone. 3 sharp raps. Precise. Deliberate. Allison's blood turned to ice. It was 4 in the morning. Nobody knocked at 4 in the morning unless something was very wrong. She crept toward the peephole, heart hammering so hard she could barely hear anything else. A man stood in the hallway, tall, dark-haired, wearing a black coat that looked too expensive for her building. Not Edric. Someone else. His face was angular, handsome in a cruel way, and when he smiled at the peephole, like he knew she was watching, she saw teeth too white, too sharp. "Allison Ingram." His voice was smooth, almost friendly, but it made her skin crawl. "I'm Eli Blackfang, head guard to King Lockmoor. His Majesty requests your immediate presence at Lockmoor Estate. For your own protection, of course." She pressed herself against the wall, not breathing. "I can hear your heartbeat, Miss Ingram. I know you're frightened. But the contract is binding, and there are others who would very much like to meet Charlotte's daughter. Others who won't be as courteous as I am." Another knock. Harder this time. "You have 10 seconds to open this door voluntarily. After that, I'm afraid the invitation becomes significantly less polite." Imagine hearing those words at 4 a.m. and still not being subscribed to the one channel helping you escape reality. Go ahead. Subscribe now, before someone like Eli knocks on your door in the middle of the night. Allison's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. She dialed the number on Edric Lockmoor's card. He answered on the first ring. "Allison." His voice was dark, knowing. "I see you've met Eli. Don't let him in." Edric's voice was calm, absolute. "I'm 2 minutes away." The line went dead. Allison stared at her phone. 2 minutes. Eli was right outside her door, and Edric was 2 minutes away. How did he even know where? The doorknob rattled. "Time's up, Miss Ingram." Eli's voice had lost its friendly edge. "I really must insist." She heard something crack, the door frame splitting. Allison ran. She grabbed her jacket, shoved her phone in her pocket, and bolted for the fire escape. 3rd floor. She could make it. She had to make it. The window stuck. Old paint, warped wood. She yanked harder, knuckles white. Behind her, the apartment door burst open. Running makes this so much more exciting. Eli's footsteps were impossibly fast, but His Majesty won't be pleased if I damage his property. The window gave. Allison threw herself through it onto the metal platform, cold air hitting her face like a slap. She didn't look back. She took the stairs 2 at a time, boots clanging on metal, 3 floors down to the alley below. She hit the pavement hard, stumbled, kept running. The alley opened onto the street. Empty. 4:30 in the morning and not a single car, not a single person. Just streetlights and shadows and the sound of her own ragged breathing. Then headlights. Bright, blinding, coming fast. A black SUV screeched to a stop in front of her. The back door flew open. "Get in." Edric's voice cut through the night. If you're still watching without subscribing, that means you like danger. Fine. Prove it. Hit subscribe right now. Or head to the comments and confess why you enjoy living on the edge like Allison running for her life. Allison didn't think. She dove into the back seat. The door slammed shut before she'd even sat up. The driver, another pale, black-suited figure, hit the gas, and they were moving. She twisted around. Through the back window, she saw Eli standing in the alley entrance, watching them go. He wasn't running, wasn't chasing. Just standing there with that cruel smile, like he'd already won something she didn't understand yet. What the hell was that? Allison's voice shook. Edric sat across from her in the spacious back seat, perfectly composed despite the speed at which they were moving. Up close, in the dim interior light, he looked even less human. Too perfect, too still, like a sculpture given breath, but not warmth. That, he said quietly, was a reminder that you're no longer safe in the human world. Eli knows you exist, which means others will know soon. You said he was your head guard. He is. Then why? Because the contract your mother broke didn't just bind her to me. It bound her bloodline. You are leverage, Allison. Power. Proof that I had a fated mate, that I can produce an heir. Every rival coven wants that proof either destroyed or claimed for themselves. He leaned forward slightly. Eli serves me, but he serves his own interests more. And right now, his interest is determining exactly how valuable you are. The SUV turned sharply. They were heading out of the city, streetlights giving way to darkness and empty highway. Where are you taking me? Somewhere you'll be protected. Lockmoor Estate. I didn't agree to. You called me. His eyes caught the passing headlights, flashing gold. That was agreement enough. The rage that had been building in her chest finally broke through the fear. You don't own me. I don't care what your contract says. I don't want to own you. Edric's voice was soft, almost sad. But your mother's choices left you with a target on your back. You can hate me for that. Most do. But you're alive right now because I answered your call. Allison's hands curled into fists. What did my mother do? What was this contract? Edric reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. Cream-colored, expensive, with her name written in handwriting she recognized instantly, her mother's. Her breath caught. Charlotte left this for you. I was instructed to give it to you only when you entered my protection. He held it out. Welcome to Lockmoor Estate, Allison. Your mother's last words are waiting. Lockmoor Estate wasn't what Allison expected. No crumbling Gothic castle. No gargoyles or iron gates dripping with moss. Instead, a massive modern mansion rose from the wooded hillside like something out of an architectural magazine. Glass and stone and clean lines. Beautiful. Sterile. Wrong. The SUV pulled through security gates that opened silently. Allison clutched her mother's letter but hadn't opened it yet. Couldn't. Not with Edric watching her with those ancient, knowing eyes. The driver stopped at the front entrance. Edric stepped out first, then offered his hand. She ignored it and climbed out herself. Stubborn. He almost smiled. Charlotte was the same way. The front doors opened before they reached them. A woman stood in the entrance, tall and severe in a black suit, her dark hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her eyes were the same predatory gold as Edric's. "Your Majesty." She bowed her head slightly. "The eastern wing has been prepared as requested." "Thank you, Vera." Edric gestured for Allison to enter. "This is Allison Ingram. She's to be given every courtesy and protection. No one enters her rooms without my explicit permission." Vera's gaze slid to Allison, sharp and assessing. "Of course, Your Majesty, though I should mention that Eli has already arrived. He's waiting in the south parlor." Edric's expression didn't change, but the temperature dropped. "I didn't summon him. He claims urgent business regarding the transition." Allison's stomach twisted. They were talking about her like she was cargo, a problem to be managed. "I'll speak with him." Edric turned to Allison. "Vera will show you to your rooms. Don't leave the eastern wing until I return. And don't trust anyone who isn't me." "I don't trust you either," Allison shot back. That almost smile again. "Good. You're learning." He disappeared down a hallway, his footsteps silent on the marble floor. Vera's cold gaze settled fully on Allison. "This way, Miss Ingram." The eastern wing was a maze of corridors and closed doors. Vera walked quickly, her heels clicking with military precision. She didn't speak, didn't look back. Just led Allison deeper into the mansion like a warden escorting a prisoner. Finally, they stopped at a set of double doors. "Your rooms." Vera pushed them open, revealing a suite that was bigger than Allison's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking dark woods, a bed that looked like it cost more than her car. Everything pristine and expensive and completely impersonal. "There are clothes in the closet. Food will be brought at 8. Do not leave this wing." Vera's tone made it clear this wasn't a suggestion. "What if I do? Then you'll discover that this house has more than locks to keep things contained." Vera turned to leave, then paused at the door. "A word of advice, Miss Ingram. His Majesty may have claimed you, but that doesn't make you safe. It makes you valuable. And valuable things have a way of disappearing. In this house." The doors closed with a soft click. Allison stood alone in the massive suite, her mother's letter still clutched in her hand. She walked to the windows. Beyond the glass, the woods were dark and endless. No lights, no road, no way out. She finally opened the envelope. The letter was short, written in her mother's careful handwriting on pale blue stationery. "My darling Allison, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and Edric has found you. I'm so sorry. I thought I could give you a normal life. I thought 18 years would be enough time to find another way. I was wrong. Trust no one in that house. Not Edric. Not his guards. Especially not Eli Blackfang. He's the reason I ran. He's the reason I'm dead. There's a safe deposit box at First National Bank in Scranton. Box 847. The key is taped inside your copy of Wuthering Heights, the one I gave you for your 16th birthday. Inside the box, you'll find everything I couldn't tell you. I loved you more than immortality." Mom, Allison's hands shook. She read it twice. 3 times. Eli Blackfang. He's the reason I'm dead. A knock at the door made her jump. "Miss Ingram." A male voice. Smooth. Familiar. "I thought you might like some tea. It's a long first night." She recognized that voice from her apartment hallway. Eli Blackfang was standing outside her door. Allison shoved her mother's letter under the mattress and walked to the door. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her breathing steady. If Eli knew what that letter said, she was dead. If he didn't, she needed to keep it that way. She cracked the door open, just enough to see him. Eli Blackfang looked different in the soft hallway light, less predatory, almost kind. He held a silver tray with a delicate teacup, steam curling from the surface. His smile was warm, concerned, nothing like the cruel expression he'd worn at her apartment. "I apologize for earlier," he said smoothly. "I'm afraid I came on rather strong. His Majesty has a tendency to inspire urgency in his guards." He lifted the tray slightly. "Peace offering?" "I don't want tea." Allison kept the door mostly closed, her body blocking the entrance. "Understandable." Eli's dark eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "This must all be terribly overwhelming. One day you're a normal girl. The next you're trapped in a vampire's estate being told you're bound by ancient contracts." He shook his head sympathetically. "Edric has a habit of taking what he wants without considering the damage." Something cold slithered down Allison's spine. "What do you mean?" "May I?" Eli gestured at the room. "I'd rather not have this conversation in the hallway where anyone might hear." Every instinct screamed at her to slam the door, but she needed information, needed to know what game he was playing. She stepped back. "Let him in." Eli set the tray on a side table and turned to face her, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I served under Edric for 70 years. I've seen him claim many things: territory, power, people. But I've never seen him pursue anyone the way he pursued your mother." Allison's throat tightened. "He said she was his fated mate. Is that what he told you?" Eli's laugh was soft, bitter. Charlotte was human when he found her, working in a bridal shop, no family, no one who would miss her. Perfect prey. He seduced her, bound her with pretty lies about destiny and eternal love, and when she finally understood what he really wanted, she ran. What did he want? An heir. Eli moved closer, his voice dropping. "Vampire kings don't age, Miss Ingram, but they can be killed, challenged, overthrown. A child with both vampire and human blood, especially from a fated mate, would be the ultimate legitimacy, proof of his line, insurance against rivals." His eyes held hers. "You're not his lover's daughter. You're his political asset." The words hit like physical blows. Allison took a step back. "Your mother knew this," Eli continued. "That's why she hid you. Why she broke the contract and paid with her life. She was trying to save you from becoming exactly what you are now, his property." "Stop." Allison's voice shook. "Just stop. I wish I could." Eli's expression was almost pitying. "But you need to understand what you're dealing with. Edric will be kind to you, protective even. He'll tell you it's all for your safety, that he cares about you. But the moment you're no longer useful, the moment you threaten his power..." He left the sentence hanging. The door burst open. Edric stood in the doorway, his eyes blazing gold. The temperature plummeted. Behind him, Vera and 2 other guards filled the hallway. "Eli." His voice was ice. "I gave explicit orders that no one was to enter this wing." Eli turned, his expression shifting to respectful concern. "Your Majesty." Miss Ingram seemed distressed. "I merely wanted to..." "Get out." "Of course." Eli bowed his head, but not before throwing Allison one last meaningful look. A look that said, "See? This is what I meant." He walked past Edric without another word. Edric stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. His anger filled the space like smoke. "What did he tell you?" Allison backed toward the window. "That you're using me. That my mother died because she tried to protect me from being your political pawn." Something flickered across Edric's face. Pain, maybe. Or guilt. He's not entirely wrong. The silence stretched between them like a blade. "So it's true." Allison's voice was hollow. "I'm just a pawn to you." Edric's jaw tightened. "Charlotte was never just anything to me, and neither are you." He moved closer, and she saw something raw in his eyes, something that looked almost human. But Eli's right about one thing. You are leverage. Every vampire in the Eastern Covens knows by now that Charlotte's daughter exists. Some will want to kill you to weaken my claim. Others will want to take you to use against me. Either way, you're in danger. Then let me go. I'll disappear. Change my name. Leave the country. They'll find you. His voice was flat, certain. Your blood calls to us now. The marks on your arms are a beacon. Running won't save you. Allison looked down at her wrists. The symbols had spread to her elbows, dark and intricate, pulsing with their own rhythm. What's happening to me? Your mother's magic is waking. She suppressed it for 18 years to hide you, but now that the contract's grace period has ended, there's nothing holding it back. Edric reached out slowly like approaching a frightened animal and gently took her wrist. His fingers were cold. This is elemental magic. Rare, powerful. Charlotte could manipulate water and ice. From what I can see, you've inherited the same gift. The moment his skin touched hers, the marks flared hot. Allison gasped, jerking back. Edric's expression darkened. We need to complete the claiming ritual. Soon. What? No? It's the only way to stabilize the magic and legitimize my protection. Without it, you're vulnerable. With it, you're untouchable. Anyone who harms you would be declaring war on my entire line. You mean you'd own me? I mean you'd be under my protection in a way that even rival kings couldn't challenge. He turned away, running a hand through his silver hair. I don't expect you to trust me. But I need you to understand that this isn't about control. It's about survival. Yours and mine. A scream shattered the night. Edric's head snapped toward the window. In an instant, he was across the room, moving faster than Allison's eyes could track. Stay here. What was... Another scream. Closer. Then the sound of breaking glass. Edric pulled out his phone, voice sharp. Vera. Report. Allison couldn't hear the response, but she saw his expression shift to something cold and lethal. Lock this door behind me, he said. Don't open it for anyone but me. Then he was gone. Allison stood frozen for 3 seconds before her survival instincts kicked in. She ran to the door, turned the lock, then shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. Her hands were shaking. The screaming had stopped, but now she could hear other sounds. Running footsteps. Shouting. Something that sounded like growling. The lights went out. Allison's breath caught. Emergency lighting flickered on in the hallway outside, casting eerie red shadows under her door. She backed toward the window, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Something slammed against her door. She bit back a scream. Allison! Eli's voice urgent and breathless. Open the door, now. Edric said. Edric's occupied with the breach on the south side. There are 3 vampires heading this way right now. Rival coven. They're here for you. Another slam, this time harder. I can protect you, but you need to let me in. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Especially not Eli Blackfang. He's the reason I'm dead. I'm not opening this door. Then you're going to die in the next 60 seconds. His voice was cold now. Honest. Your choice. Glass exploded inward from the window. If this scene scared you even a little, then you owe this channel a subscribe, because running from vampires is hard, but running from the guilt of freeloading on this story is harder. Allison screamed, throwing herself sideways as 3 figures poured through the opening like smoke given form. Fast, inhuman, their eyes glowing in the darkness. The lead vampire smiled, his fangs gleaming. Hello, little half-blood. We've been looking for you. The door crashed open. Not from Eli breaking in, from Edric tearing it off its hinges. Blood covered his shirt, his eyes blazing gold fire. He looked at the 3 intruders and smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Allison had ever seen. "You dare enter my home, touch what's mine." The vampires barely had time to react before Edric moved. It wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Fast, brutal, efficient. In less than 10 seconds, all three intruders were on the ground, their bodies already turning to ash. Edric stood in the center of the carnage, chest heaving, his eyes still blazing. Then he turned to Allison. "The claiming ritual. Tonight." His voice left no room for argument. "This is the second attempt on your life in 12 hours. There won't be a third." Allison made her choice. Now make yours. Subscribe. Unless you want to stand alone the way she almost did. And if you refuse, step into the comments and confess your reasons. The rest of us want to hear your final words. Eli appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Your Majesty is right, Miss Ingram. Without the ritual, you're a target. With it, you're untouchable." Allison looked between them. The king covered in blood, the guard with the sympathetic smile, her mother's warning burning in her mind. She had no good choices left. "Fine." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Do it." The ritual chamber was nothing like Allison expected. No candles or pentagrams or ancient stone altars, just a circular room deep in the mansion's lower levels, its walls covered in symbols that glowed faintly silver in the darkness. Modern, clinical, terrifying. Edric stood at the center, his blood-stained shirt replaced with formal black. Vera and 4 other guards lined the walls like sentinels. Eli stood near the entrance, his expression carefully neutral. "The claiming ritual is simple," Edric said, his voice echoing in the space. "A blood exchange that binds your life force to mine. You'll be able to feel me, sense when I'm near, and I'll be able to find you anywhere in the world." His eyes met hers. "It's not ownership, it's connection, but it's permanent." Allison's throat was dry. "And if I say no? Then you leave this house unprotected and die within a week. Maybe less." He extended his hand. "Your choice has always been your own, Allison, but some choices only have one real answer." She walked forward. Each step felt like falling. When she reached him, he took her hand gently, turning her wrist up so the marks were visible in the silver light. "This will hurt," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." Before she could respond, he drew a small blade across his palm. Blood welled up, dark as wine. Then he pressed his bleeding hand against her marked wrist. Pain exploded through her body. Not physical, something deeper, like her soul was being rewritten. The marks on her skin blazed white-hot, spreading up her arms, across her shoulders, down her spine. She heard herself scream, but couldn't stop it. Edric's other hand caught her before she fell, holding her steady. "Breathe through it. Let the magic settle." The pain peaked, then crashed like a wave breaking. Allison gasped, her vision clearing. The marks had stopped spreading. They covered her arms completely now, but they no longer burned. Instead, they hummed with energy that felt almost alive. And beneath that, she felt something else. A presence. Cold and ancient and powerful, sitting in the back of her mind like a second heartbeat. Edric. "It's done." He released her hand, but the connection remained. She could sense him even without looking. Could feel his relief mixed with something darker. Possessiveness, maybe, or fear. "I can feel you," she whispered. "And I you." His voice was soft. "Welcome to immortality's edge, Allison Ingram. You're mine now, in the only way that matters to my kind." Eli stepped forward, breaking the moment. "Your Majesty, the Eastern Wing repairs are underway, but I'd recommend Miss Ingram be moved to more secure quarters until—" "She stays in the Eastern Wing," Edric cut him off. "In the suite that belonged to Charlotte." Allison's head snapped up. "My mother had rooms here?" "She lived here for 3 years before she ran." Edric's expression was unreadable. I kept them locked. No one has entered since she left, but now that you're claimed, they're yours. A hour later, Allison stood in her mother's suite. It was larger than her current rooms, with the same floor-to-ceiling windows but furniture that looked lived in, personal. A bookshelf filled with worn paperbacks, a desk with scattered pens, a closet still holding clothes from 2 decades ago. Her mother had lived here, had been part of this world. The evidence was everywhere. Allison walked to the desk, her hands shaking. The drawers were locked, but the claiming ritual had done something to her. She could feel the magic in the wood, sense the mechanism inside. Without thinking, she touched the lock, and ice crystals spread from her fingertips. The lock froze solid, then shattered. Inside the drawer, she found a journal, leather-bound, filled with her mother's handwriting. And beneath it, wrapped in velvet cloth, a silver locket. Allison's breath caught. She picked up the locket carefully. It was heavier than it looked, warm to the touch despite being metal. When she opened it, there were no pictures inside. Instead, a crystallized drop of blood sat in one half and an inscription in the other. Truth reveals. Blood remembers. She touched the blood crystal. The world exploded into vision. She saw her mother, young and terrified, running through these halls, saw Eli Blackfang step from the shadows, his smile cold and calculated. Heard him speak words Allison couldn't quite make out. Saw her mother's eyes widen in horror, then understanding. Saw Eli's hand close around her mother's throat. You were always too curious for your own good, Charlotte. Eli's voice echoed through the memory. You should have stayed ignorant, should have been the perfect little mate. But you had to go digging into court politics, had to discover what I've been hiding from Edric all these years. Charlotte's voice, strained and desperate. He'll find out. When I'm gone, he'll know. He'll think you died of the breaking bond, just another tragic human who couldn't handle immortality. Eli's grip tightened. And your half-breed daughter will never know her mother died protecting a king too blind to see betrayal in his own ranks. The vision shattered. Allison stumbled backward, the locket falling from her hands. Her heart raced, her breath coming in gasps. She could still feel Eli's hands around her mother's throat, could still see the moment her mother's life ended. The door opened. Allison spun, terrified it would be Eli. It was Edric. His eyes went immediately to the open drawer, to the journal and locket on the floor. Understanding crossed his face, followed by something that looked like dread. You found Charlotte's evidence. Allison's voice shook with rage and grief. Eli killed her. He murdered my mother, and you made him your head guard. Edric's expression went deadly still. Show me. If you're still not subscribed after discovering the truth, maybe you belong with the villains. Go on. Comment why you won't join us. But for everyone else with sense, hit subscribe before the next secret kills you. Edric picked up the locket with careful reverence, like it might shatter. His hands didn't shake, but Allison could feel his emotions through the bond now. Rage, grief, something close to devastation. Blood memory, he said quietly. Charlotte was more powerful than I realized. She encoded her death into this locket, preserved it for you to find. He looked at Allison, his ancient eyes suddenly looking tired. Show me how to access it. Allison took the locket back, her fingers brushing his. The contact made the bond flare between them, a rush of shared emotion that left her breathless. She touched the blood crystal again. This time, Edric saw it too. The vision played out in the space between them like a hologram. Charlotte running. Eli's ambush. His cold confession. The murder. Every detail crystal clear, preserved in blood and magic. When it ended, Edric stood motionless for 10 seconds. Then he threw the locket across the room. It hit the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. 70 years. His voice was dead calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. He served at my side for 70 years, advised me, protected me, all while hiding this. He turned to Allison, and his eyes were blazing gold. What else did Charlotte know? What was Eli hiding that was worth killing for? Allison grabbed the journal from the desk, flipping through pages covered in her mother's handwriting. Dates, names, notes about court politics she didn't understand. Then, near the end, a section marked with a red tab. She read aloud. Eli Blackfang has been embezzling blood tributes from the Western Territories for at least 15 years. The documentation is hidden in offshore accounts under shell corporations. He's also been selling territory information to the Castellane Coven in exchange for a promised position when they eventually move against Edric's rule. Her hands tightened on the journal. She found proof he was planning a coup. Edric's expression went from rage to something colder. Calculation. That's why he wanted you dead. Not because you're my heir, because you're Charlotte's daughter and he couldn't risk you finding what she knew. He began pacing, his mind clearly racing. The Castellanes have been pushing at my borders for 5 years. Small provocations, testing my responses. I thought they were simply ambitious. But if Eli's been feeding them intelligence, they've been planning this for years, Allison finished. And my mother discovered it. Which means Eli knows that Charlotte left evidence. He's been searching for it since she died. Edric stopped pacing, his eyes meeting hers. That's why he came to your apartment, why he tried to gain your trust tonight. He wasn't trying to protect you or turn you against me. He was trying to find out if you knew anything. The pieces clicked into place. The attack tonight. The 3 vampires. Were they really from a rival coven? Or were they Eli's people, staged to force the claiming ritual and get him access to Charlotte's rooms through you? Edric's jaw clenched. He's been playing both sides, serving me while preparing to betray me, and using you as the key to eliminate the one piece of evidence that could destroy him. Allison's mind raced. So what do we do? Confront him? Have him arrested? Vampire politics don't work that way. Edric moved to the window, looking out at the dark grounds. I can't simply execute my headguard without proof in front of the court. It would look like paranoia, weakness. Exactly what the Castellanes want. He turned back to her. But if we expose him publicly with undeniable evidence, I can enact the king's justice. Charlotte's blood memory would be accepted as legitimate testimony in the Midnight Court. The Midnight Court? The gathering of all Eastern Coven leaders. It happens once a month, always at the full moon. The next session is in 3 days. His expression was grim. Every vampire of rank will be there, including Eli, including the Castellanes. That's insane. If Eli knows we have the locket, he doesn't. Not yet. As far as he knows, Charlotte's rooms were empty. You were simply moved for security reasons after the attack. Edric's voice dropped. But we need to keep it that way. Which means you need to pretend nothing has changed. Pretend you still don't trust me. Pretend you're still vulnerable and confused. While we set a trap. While we set a trap? He moved closer, and she could feel the intensity of his focus through the bond. I won't force you into this, Allison. Using you as bait puts you directly in danger. Eli is desperate, and desperate predators are the most deadly. If he suspects for even a moment that we know, he'll kill me like he killed my mother. Allison's voice was steady. I know. But I'm doing this anyway. She died trying to protect you from his betrayal. The least I can do is finish what she started. Something flickered across Edric's face. Respect? Maybe. Or something deeper. You're more like Charlotte than you know. Then let's make sure her death meant something. Allison closed the journal, determination settling over her fear like armor. Tell me how the Midnight Court works. Tell me what I need to do to destroy Eli Blackfang. Edric smiled. It wasn't kind. First, you need to learn how to use your magic, because when we expose him, he'll come for you. And you need to be ready to fight back. He extended his hand. This time, Allison took it without hesitation. 3 days of training felt like 3 years. Edric pushed her relentlessly in the mansion's lower chambers, teaching her to channel the elemental magic that burned through her veins. Ice crystallized at her fingertips when she concentrated, spreading across surfaces in intricate patterns. Water responded to her will, bending and shaping itself according to her emotions. But control was harder than raw power. Again, Edric commanded as she tried to freeze a practice dummy without shattering it entirely. Precision, not destruction. In the Midnight Court, you'll need surgical strikes, not avalanches. Allison gritted her teeth and focused. The ice spread slower this time, encasing just the dummy's arm. Progress, but still not perfect. Through it all, she had to pretend. During meals in the main hall, she sat rigid and uncomfortable, avoiding Edric's gaze while Eli watched with his calculating smile. In the hallways, she flinched when guards approached, playing the traumatized human girl perfectly. And when Eli found reasons to check on her, always solicitous, always concerned, she let him think she was still torn between trusting him and fearing Edric. "You're doing well," Eli said on the second evening, catching her alone in the library. His voice was warm, sympathetic. "I know the claiming ritual must have been difficult, but you're safer now. Edric's protection carries weight." Allison forced herself to meet his eyes, the same eyes that had watched her mother die. "I still don't understand why my mother ran from him. If she loved him like he says." "Love and fear aren't mutually exclusive, Miss Ingram." Eli moved closer, lowering his voice. "Charlotte loved him, but she also feared what he was capable of, what he made her become." He paused, his expression carefully crafted. "Has he told you about the others? The humans he claimed before your mother?" Her blood ran cold. "What others?" "Perhaps I've said too much." Eli straightened, but his damage was done, the seed of doubt planted. "Forgive me. I shouldn't spread rumors, even if they're true." He left her standing there, exactly as he intended, confused, frightened, angry. Through the bond, she felt Edric's rage spike from wherever he was in the mansion. He'd been monitoring her emotions, ready to intervene if Eli pushed too hard. But she sent back a wave of reassurance. She could handle this. The night of the Midnight Court arrived with silver moonlight and mist rolling across the grounds. Vampires began arriving at dusk, their vehicles lining the long drive like a funeral procession. Black cars, black suits, pale faces, and predatory eyes. The most powerful vampires in the Eastern Territories, gathering in one place. Allison dressed carefully in the gown Vera had left for her. Deep crimson silk that looked like blood in the low light, elegant and expensive. Her mother's locket hung beneath the fabric, cold against her skin. Hidden, but there. Ready. Edric came to escort her personally. He wore formal black with silver accents, his hair pulled back, looking every inch the ancient king. When his eyes met hers, she felt the bond pulse between them. Fear, determination, trust. "The hall of the Midnight Court is designed to intimidate," he said quietly as they walked through the corridors. "Every vampire there will be watching you, judging you, wondering if you're worthy of the claiming. Don't let them see weakness. And Eli? Will be standing at my right hand, as Headguard tradition demands. You'll be at my left, as my claimed consort." His voice dropped. "When the moment comes, when we reveal the evidence, he'll strike. Be ready." "I'm ready." They reached the massive double doors. Beyond them, she could hear voices, dozens of them, speaking in multiple languages, the weight of centuries bearing down. The doors opened. The hall of the Midnight Court was vast and circular, with tiered seating rising in concentric rings. At the center, a raised platform held 7 thrones, the middle one noticeably larger, Edric's throne. Around the room, perhaps 50 vampires watched with unblinking eyes as Edric led Allison forward. She felt their gazes like physical touches, assessing, hungry, curious. Eli stood beside the central throne, his expression perfectly neutral. But when his eyes found Allison, something flickered. Suspicion, maybe, or calculation. Edric took his seat. Allison stood at his left, as instructed. Eli at his right. The 3 of them forming a tableau that would be studied and dissected by every vampire present. "I call the Midnight Court to order." Edric's voice filled the chamber, amplified by centuries of authority. "We gather under the full moon to address matters of blood, law, and succession." He paused, and Allison felt his tension through the bond. "Tonight, I formally present Allison Ingram, daughter of Charlotte Ingram, my fated mate. She has been claimed according to ancient rites and stands under my full protection." Murmurs rippled through the assembled vampires. From the tiered seats, a woman stood. Tall, elegant, with dark hair and eyes like chips of obsidian. Power radiated from her like heat. "Lady Castellane," Edric acknowledged, "you have the floor." "I challenge the legitimacy of this claiming." Her voice was silk over steel. "Charlotte Ingram was a runaway who broke covenant. Her daughter has no right to stand in this court unless—" Her smile was razor-sharp. "Your Majesty can prove the bloodline beyond doubt." This was it, the opening they'd been waiting for. Allison stepped forward. "I can prove it." Every eye in the room locked onto her. The temperature dropped. She could feel Eli's attention boring into her back. She reached beneath her gown and pulled out the locket. "My mother left evidence, blood memory, sealed and preserved. Evidence that proves not only my bloodline." She let the words hang for a heartbeat, but also the identity of her murderer. Eli moved so fast she almost missed it. His hand went for the blade at his belt. But Allison was faster. Ice exploded from her palms, crystallizing the air between them into a solid wall. Eli's blade shattered against it. If your heart is racing right now, that's a sign. Subscribe. Don't be like Eli, making the worst decisions of his life in front of everyone. The court erupted into chaos. "Seize him!" Edric's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Guards materialized from the shadows, but Eli was already moving. He vaulted over the ice wall, his form blurring with supernatural speed, heading not for Edric, but for Lady Castellane's section of the court. "The girl lies!" Eli's voice rang out, desperate and calculated. "Charlotte Ingram died of the broken bond. This is a fabrication to eliminate me because I questioned the legitimacy of—" "Enough!" Edric's word cracked like a whip. He rose from his throne, and the temperature plummeted. Every vampire in the hall felt it, the weight of a king's fury made manifest. "You will face the evidence, Eli Blackfang, or you will face me." Allison stepped forward, the locket clutched in her hand. Through the bond, she felt Edric's steadying presence, his silent encouragement. She touched the blood crystal. The vision erupted into the center of the hall, visible to all. Blood memory magic was ancient, irrefutable. Every vampire watched as Charlotte ran through Lockmoor's corridors. Watched as Eli emerged from the shadows. Heard his confession of embezzlement, of selling intelligence to the Castellanes, of planning a coup. Watched him murder Charlotte Ingram in cold blood. The silence that followed was absolute. Lady Castellane's face had gone carefully blank, but Allison saw the calculation in her eyes. She was already distancing herself from the conspiracy, preparing to deny any involvement. Politics moved fast in the vampire world. Eli stood frozen, his carefully constructed mask finally cracking. Then he laughed. Bitter, defeated, unhinged. 70 years, he said, looking at Edric. 70 years I watched you waste your potential on sentiment. On human pets you pretended were equals. Charlotte should have been leverage, not a lover. This one, he gestured at Allison with contempt, should have been a hostage, not a consort. You're weak, Edric. You always were. And you're dead. Edric descended from the platform, each step measured. The law's clear. Treason against the crown, murder of the king's fated mate, conspiracy with rival covens. He stopped 5 feet from Eli. Any one of these crimes demands execution. You've committed all 3. Eli's hand moved to his belt, a second blade hidden. But before he could draw it, ice erupted from the floor beneath him, spreading up his legs, crystallizing the air around his arms. Allison's magic, raw and instinctive, fueled by rage and grief. That's for my mother, she said quietly. Eli struggled against the ice, his vampire strength cracking through. But it slowed him enough. Edric moved. It wasn't theatrical. There was no grand speech, no dramatic pause. Edric simply reached out and placed his hand on Eli's chest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Eli screamed. His body began to crumble from the inside out, turning to ash. This was the king's justice, a power reserved for only the most ancient vampires, the ability to unmake another of their kind completely. No ceremony, no blade, just will and power absolute. In 30 seconds, Eli Blackfang ceased to exist. Only dust remained, scattering across the marble floor. He didn't subscribe. Look what happened to him. Learn from Eli's mistake. Hit subscribe before you end up metaphorically, or literally, in ashes. Edric turned to face the court, his eyes blazing gold. Let this serve as reminder. Treason will not be tolerated. Betrayal will not be forgiven. And those who threaten what is mine. His gaze swept across the assembled vampires, lingering on Lady Castellane. Will face the same fate. No one spoke. No one moved. This court is adjourned. Edric's voice was final. The vampires filed out in silence, the weight of what they'd witnessed pressing down like a physical force. Lady Castellane left without a word, her plans for destabilization reduced to ash, along with her co-conspirator. When the hall emptied, only Allison and Edric remained. She walked to him slowly, her legs shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. The locket felt heavy in her hand, her mother's final gift delivered. "It's done," she whispered. "It's done." Edric's expression softened, the ancient king giving way to something more human. "You were magnificent." "I was terrified." "That's what made you magnificent." He reached out, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. Charlotte would be proud. Tears burned Allison's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. What happens now? Now? Edric's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. Now you decide what kind of queen you want to be. The word hung between them. Queen. Not prisoner. Not pawn. Not debt payment. Queen. Allison looked at the empty throne beside Edric's. Her mother's throne. Once. Now hers. If she chose to claim it. The blood contract was fulfilled. Eli was dead. The threat eliminated. She could walk away. Return to her coffee shop, her small apartment, her human life. But that life had never really been hers, had it? It had been borrowed time, a grace period built on her mother's sacrifice. Through the bond, she felt Edric's emotions, hope, fear, longing. He would let her go if she asked. She understood that now. Whatever else he was, he had loved her mother. And he was beginning to love her. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like coming home. Allison took Edric's hand, her marked skin against his cold palm. The magic hummed between them, Charlotte's legacy flowing through her veins. "Then I guess you better teach me how to rule?" she said. "You've stayed till the end. That means this story grabbed you. Don't walk away without subscribing. That would hurt more than Charlotte's death. And if you still refuse, enter the comments and tell us why you're fighting your fate. Edric smiled, genuine, unguarded, almost human. It would be my honor. He kissed her then, and Allison kissed him back. The debt was paid in blood and justice, but what rose from those ashes was something new, something chosen, something that belonged to them alone. Outside, dawn was breaking over Lockmoor Estate. The night of the midnight court was ending. But for Allison Ingram, newly crowned queen of the Eastern Covens, it was only the beginning.